Thanks everybody, Shawn McDonald, the Métis Man here. And I know on the last video I told you I'd give you an explanation as to why I'm here in Brussels in Belgium. It's actually on a business trip. I'm actually I'm here on behalf of the IRN, which is the Indigenous Resource Network. And I am the chairman, one of the founding members of the network. We've been around for about four or 5 years now. And anyway, I'm here on behalf of FPAC, the Forestry Producers Association of Canada, and the Canadian government. The EU currently is trying to put in place a policy that could impede the exportation of Canadian forestry products, which in turn will hinder a lot of the Indigenous businesses that are with FPAC and do produce 10% of the nation's forestry services. There's about, I think, 1,500 businesses, Indigenous businesses, that are associated with the Canadian forestry industry. And of that, there's 400 communities that are affected by it, and probably 16,000, 17,000 workers that are involved in the industry as well. So me with my advocacy, I've been doing it many years now for Indigenous people. Definitely one of them is for Indigenous businesses and our economics. Our economics themselves not only bring our people out of poverty and boost our local communities on reserves and settlements, and even the Métis Nation and all that, and boost all the communities' economics. It also gives lots of boost to the Canadian economic value as well, and the provincial value, and we also boost our local communities, our surrounding communities that are around our reserves and settlements and such. So it makes a big impact on Canada in general. And yes, I do usually promote oil and gas, but industry is, probably the second biggest industry in support of Indigenous people as far as numbers are concerned for employment and contracts and involvement. And I've always talked about in the past about economic reconciliation. Economic reconciliation is a big deal to me. And as far as my role as ROBA president and Road Business Association back at home in Northern Alberta, that I'm one of the founding members and the president of, we founded that back in 2009, and that consists of 50 Indigenous and non-Indigenous businesses that are affected by industry in the area as well. But with economic reconciliation, we have way more dealings, I guess you can say, and agreements in place with industries such as forestry and oil and gas than we do with our own governments. The governments that set in place with the UN, the UNDRIP, and Canada adopted the UNDRIP itself. Not all provinces have yet, but some have. But in that, it gives us a lot more rights as Indigenous people and our businesses to gain economically from our natural resources. So that's why I was really honored to be asked to come represent IRN and FPAC and Canada here in Brussels, because it just goes with my vision that I have for myself as an Indigenous leader to help the economy of the Indigenous people and Indigenous people itself. We gotta help each other out, and I always say that myself and the associations that I'm with, I like to say we always want a hand up, not a handout. There's a system in place that kind of impedes our people and enables some of us, keeps us in poverty, but this way here we get on our own 2 feet, business-wise, economically, and we can stand prouder as a people with our head up high of what we can achieve. And now with provincial loan agreements and federal loan agreements that are in place to help Indigenous communities, that's also a plus. Because many of us, we cannot go get a loan on our land, on a reserve or settlement. We cannot go get a loan on our house because to the banks it has no value at all. To us it is everything, but to the banks it is nothing. So with these loan programs that are in place federally and provincially, it's going to help us immensely. My home community of Kinanâskomitin Settlement has already struck a couple of deals, including Buffalo Lake Settlement and the surrounding reserves such as Hard Lake, Beaver Lake, all of the ones in the area, Good Fish, Whitefish, Saddle Lake, all of them. They've struck many deals with different companies with the oil and gas industry, and they're already reaping the benefits from that. They have actual ownership. We have actual ownership in these big projects now. Multi-million-dollar projects. And so now we can hold our head up high, and we're building up our economies inside of our own communities, right? Without the assistance of government, after the loan, mind you. But it is a loan. It is not a grant. It's a loan. So it is getting paid back. It just now makes it easier for us to loan, instead of getting laughed out of the bank because you have no ownership of the land that you've been given, the land that has been stolen off of us, right? And it's been far too long in my eyes that Canada itself, as a government, has been reaping the rewards of the genocide that happened, the atrocities that happened to our people in the past. And that wasn't a good thing that Canada did, the Canada government. But now slowly, that will never be forgotten. That will never be forgiven in my eyes, but what is done is done. We must move forward one way or another, but never forget about it. I've seen too much in the news, not only in our country, but all countries, where they are trying to destroy and erase the past, including, pulling down statues and stuff like that. And do I agree with that? In a sense, I do, but I was talking to a wise elder last summer when I was at the residential school in Kamloops, and I do believe I have a video on that on one of my TikTok pages. But I see many schools that are being torn down. Some places have even maybe been burnt down, like churches and such like that. So I asked this elder, I said, why? I could see all this construction going on to restore this residential school. I said, why is your people, the people of that First Nation there, revising this residential school? All the pain and anger that it has, being the first residential school with the 215 souls that were found on the land. Why are you rebuilding the structure instead of tearing it down like many of our people say should be done? And he gave me an answer that just floored me to this day, and that goes to stand for statues and everything else. Like I said, why are you letting it stand? Why are you rebuilding? He says, for one thing, Shawn, he says, for one thing only. And he says, that's so this residential school in Kamloops can stand as a memory to the Canadian people, to the people of the world, of what the Canadian government did to our people. He says, if we destroy it and knock it down, that in time will erase it from Canadians' memory, and which it will. They're trying to erase the Holocaust right now and the atrocities that happened there. So to me, you see such buildings such as that, statues as that, you destroy that, you're destroying the history, you're destroying the memory, and our elders will remember, but in time generations will forget. But if we keep them standing and keep them there to identify our past history and that. So with Canada, lots has happened in our past to our people that, some can forgive, some may not. But we must never ever forget that past. We must teach that past to our youth and to other nations such as this. I'm here in association with my leadership with IRN, collaborating with the FPAC on behalf of Canada. And it's not that I'm standing here to help the Canadian government. I am standing here to help the Indigenous businesses that are involved with the Forestry Service, and I want to make that clear. I'm no sellout to the government or to industry itself. I always say that publicly. I stand here as an Indigenous person, Indigenous leader, to stand up for Indigenous businesses that help bring our Indigenous people out of poverty, right? So I just want to fill you in on that, right? So I did meet yesterday with our Canadian ambassador here in Brussels. I met with her, I met with some of her team. I've met with the Canadian Embassy themselves, and also met with the EU and the right-hand person to the President of the EU. So it went very, very well. I told our Canadian story. I showed my support for the Indigenous people and for FPAC. FPAC I'm very proud to be associated with, and I'm very proud to have them as members as the IRN, with the IRN, because they value Indigenous growth, like the oil and gas does. They value seeing Indigenous prosperity, Indigenous collaborations between our businesses and with their association to generate work as well, right? So very good to see. So very proud to be involved with that. So I'm going to go for another walkabout here and get you some more pictures and some more videos on that. But I just wanted to check in and let you know how things are going here. So that's it for now. Hopefully you're enjoying some of the videos and the pictures that you see. And again, I'm very proud to be an ambassador for IRN in Canada and the Indigenous businesses that are involved with FPAC and fight, because if they pass that regulation, it will mean a lot of our Indigenous businesses and Canadian businesses losing a lot of income, a lot of work, a lot of revenue if that passes through. So hopefully we can gently persuade them in a nice way to change just a little bit of verbiage on their bill to include Canada and our forestry industry, and not to exclude us, because right now it does exclude us. So just a little subtle verbiage changes in it will make that happen. So hopefully that can be done. We ask for an extension so they can look into it, so they don't put it into effect right away, but ask for extension so we can help revise that. And so far things are looking good, so I hope that comes true. So there you go. I just want you to know that as Métis Man, I wear many, many hats, not just Métis Man, and I do value every aspect of our Aboriginal and Indigenous ways. And personally, I must say the word Indigenous, I'm trying to use it more. It's tough for me to use because I was born and raised up, using Aboriginal. That was the main flavor of the day back then, right? And it's not us as our people that's changing the definition or the title of our peoples. It's the same definition but different verbiage, but even the definition, I guess it shouldn't say it is the same, because Indigenous means you're Indigenous to the country, but then if you go to another country you're still Indigenous, and it's just a wordplay in my eyes, and I much prefer Aboriginal, although Indigenous is the politically correct term that we use nowadays. So you'll hear me often use it both. I've been called Native, half-breed, everything else, Métis, which I'm good with all of those. But never call me late for supper. That's the main thing. So yeah, I just wanted you to see the beautiful sights out of here, and right behind me here is the European Parliament buildings. That's just the beginning. There's many, many buildings here, and we'll go show you a few. I got a meeting here in 3 hours that I got to attend to, and this is with the U.S. Embassy and their affiliation with FPAC and our allyship that we built with them in that for exporting. So it will affect them as well. It even affects pulp. Back at home we have a pulp mill there at Alpac, and they really step up when it comes to Indigenous partnerships. They employ a lot of Indigenous people, a lot of subcontractors, log hauling, stuff like that. I have many, many friends that work there, and they have lifelong jobs with them, right? Careers, so that's good to see. So my hat's off to Alpac. But anyway, going back to the pulp, and even this policy will even affect the pulp in Canada. So there's a business, in Quebec, and no matter where, they make books, they sell books. Books that are made from pulp, from Canadian pulp, shipped from Quebec, will not be allowed into EU because they trace back everything to even every book that is made, where the pulp to make those pages in that book were made from. And if it's from Canada and this goes into effect, even books like that will not be allowed into the EU in the 27 countries it represents. So yeah, a little subtle change in verbiage affects so many businesses, not just the forestry, but everything that's made from the forest products as well. A table, when you sell stuff to EU, you export, you got to prove the material, where it was made, which part of the country in Canada was made, all of that, right? And no doubt it's good to see, trying to save our country's environment. I'm all for that. And people say, well, Shawn, you're 100% for industries, natural resource industries, and I am. But I play both sides of the table. I'm also very involved and a director of this Indigenous environmental organization, where we hold industries, not just oil and gas, but any industry accountable for any environmental mishaps they might have, or policies or practices they have in place that will affect our way of living, our traditional way of living in our lands, so we hold them accountable. So people can't say that I'm all about supporting one and not the other. We can, as Indigenous people, support both sides of that coin, right? As they say, there's two sides to every coin, and I support them both. As well as governments and policies. There's some good, some bad, and some just need subtle changes like this one, because just a couple of words, little wordplay can make a big difference, and rule out countries such as Canada and allow countries such as Russia, who do nothing but clear cut and no regrowth or nothing like that, to be included and approved with this new bill. And Canada not, but just a little subtle word change, and that can reverse that dramatically. As Canada is, the first, in my eyes and many nations' eyes, on our forestry practices and the way we do things. With IRN, we did a nice little video with a First Nation in BC, and they talk about how they're affected, their community themselves thrive fully on the forestry industry. How many businesses that are made from there, how many people that are employed, generations and generations and generations of their families, 3 or 4 generations that were depend on that, their bread and butter and their gravy, right? So if you go to our social media pages, you can definitely find that. The Squamish people and the videos that we're doing with IRN. I'm so very proud to be a part of IRN. Again, like I say, one of the founding members and now the chairman of it. And how we just give the Indigenous people such as that a voice in platforms to be heard, and to teach people, to educate non-Indigenous people, different countries even. I've been showing that video here in the UN to ambassadors and such, to show how this can affect our people. But anyway, I do like to ramble on, but I just wanted to have you a clear thought of what your Métis Man is doing besides what I normally do on my channel. So it's of high importance to me and high importance to our peoples and our country and our relationships and allies throughout the world. So it means a lot to me. So there you go. I'll definitely check in later. Again, I'll take some more pictures, more video on that. And one thing for sure is my team, the Edmonton Oilers, I love you, and you're doing well. You're getting it back, and let's win 4 straight and go after that cup. So go Oilers, go. So that's it for the Métis Man, Shawn McDonald, and I'll sign off for now and let you go. Ekoski Maka, coming to you from Brussels here in Belgium, and I'm 8 hours ahead of you, so I'm a time traveler. I'm actually a day ahead of you. So now when I fly back tomorrow, I'll be going back in time, back to the future, back to the past. So there you go. Ekoski Maka, Kinanâskomitin. Please like and subscribe and share this video. My goal is this year to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I've actually gained a couple of new subscribers here in the UK, so I'm proud to say I have some new subscribers from a different continent, let alone a different country. So there you go. Again, Kinanâskomitin, Ekoski Maka, from the Métis Man. Love you all. Take care.